Well, good morning, everyone. I am Tim Kernan, and welcome to Gamecast Radio Sports Talk alongside Mike Freshwater. Mike, good morning to you.
Hey, Tim, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's another fantastic Saturday here.
It really is. The weather's
Southwest
been
Ohio.
ridiculously nice the last 3 or 4 weeks, and today is another one of those days.
Absolutely, Mike. And, I just to get the show started, I kind of wanted to, jumped right into maybe the Ryder Cup, and it's something I certainly look forward to. I love the Ryder Cup. It only happens every 2 years. Obviously, they do the President's Cup in between.
Mm-hmm.
But as a golf fan and someone who loves to play golf, I love the event. And it, of course, started yesterday on Friday. And, the U.S. didn't start off too well, did they?
No, in fact, I think it would be awful hard for them to come back from that woodshed whooping. Really, really difficult start. And you're right. Even people who don't watch golf every year or every couple of years get a piece of the Ryder Cup, especially on Saturday and Sunday if it's competitive. But right now, not so competitive. And, it's a big challenge for them to come back. Hopefully they can at least make it respectable and not be a total blowout, but they're behind the eight ball for sure.
Yeah, they of course are playing right now because it's in Spain. So they are several hours obviously ahead of us. The latest I got was it's 9.5 to 3.5. So the U.S. did score a couple of points this morning, but a tall mountain to climb the rest of today and of course tomorrow.
It is. I'm going to look here and try to get it on online real time. Right now it says 9.5 to 2.5 on RyderCup.com.
Okay.
But there's and the Europeans are up on 3 of the 4 matches that are going on right now.
Well, that's not a good sign, Mike. When I looked at the players on each team, I knew it was going to be a battle. I mean,
they're really good.
Some unbelievable golfers.
And yesterday, John Rahm, who is a Spaniard playing in his home country, put on quite a show. Eagled 2 of the last 3 holes. No doubt the home country advantage is a difference maker, and he took advantage of it yesterday. And they're really good. They've got a couple fringe guys that I had never heard of, like McIntyre. I'm not a real avid PGA guy. I watch a lot of golf, but I don't know if I recall hearing a lot about him, but that's a star-studded team for sure, as is USA. But for whatever reason, yesterday, and it looks like it's continuing today, the Europeans are dominating.
Yeah, they really are putting on quite a show, but they're doing the 4-ball right now. Each member of a 2-man team plays his own ball, so the 4 balls are in play on every hole. Each team counts the lowest of its 2 scores on each hole, and the team whose player has the lowest score wins the hole. If the low scores are tied, the hole is halved. So that's what's going on now, and they'll do that in the afternoon as well. Or I'm pretty sure the afternoon matches are probably going on right now over there. And then tomorrow they'll do the singles. The singles is probably my favorite. The alternate shot is one of my favorites as well, but I do love the singles when they go head to head.
I misspoke. The USA is red, so they are up on 3 of the 4 matches. Sam Burns and Colin Morikawa are 4 up over Victor Hovland and Ludwig Aberg. Max Homa and Brian Harmon are 3 up in their match. Justin Thomas and Spieth are 1 up in theirs. And Cantlay and Clark are down 1 in theirs. So the USA winning 3 of the 4 matches that are going on right now, but down 9.5 to 2.5.
Yeah, still a tall mountain to climb, but it does sound like maybe they're a little bit more competitive today than they were yesterday.
Sure does sound like it, but they lost a couple of those matches yesterday very late, and they did not hang on to small leads that they had. And hopefully today's a different story.
So, Mike, next on the agenda, I wanted to dive into, of course, the game last weekend between Ohio State and Notre Dame. I'll kind of give you my reaction, then I'll give you the floor, and you can certainly give your reaction. But just a couple of interesting anecdotes regarding that game. the viewership in that game was 10.5 million viewers. That's the number two covered game by NBC at Notre Dame. And do you know what the number one was?
Probably FSU Notre Dame.
You are correct. FSU versus Notre Dame.
Yep.
In 1993 was the number one, and that one had 22 million viewers.
Yeah, big games both, and Saturday night prime time and two top ranked teams. Obviously Notre Dame with a national following, and Ohio State with a national following, and by that I mean you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
So you're going to be watching to root them on, or you're going to be watching to root against them, and so just the perfect storm for a great night of TV viewing, and the game didn't disappoint ultimately.
No, it didn't. Just a few things. Notre Dame brought Sam Hartman in to score and to raise the level of offensive play, and he has certainly done that. But I think one thing that hurt Notre Dame in that game is they did not score in the first half. And I think that really hurt them. I think they had some opportunities a couple times. They got stopped on one fourth down that, I'd be interested to hear your reaction, but a fourth down conversion Notre Dame got, and they overturned it. And boy, I never saw one that was too conclusive on that, but they must have saw something I didn't see.
I've given up trying to understand that stuff. I mean, I've seen multiple plays last weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I've seen some baseball things happen this week. And it looks to me like the video, contradicts the call on the field. Yet, sometimes they overturn it, and sometimes they don't. I've given up. And you would think that bringing in the video replay would be conclusive.
Yeah.
And you could sit there and go, okay, this is pretty obvious, but evidently it's not. And that was one of those calls.
Yeah, it was
obviously
crazy.
Went Ohio State's way.
So,
yeah, it was crazy. It was very surprising. It was very surprising actually when they did that.
And another thing I think that not only, well, especially Notre Dame fans, but the Notre Dame program overall, I think I call it BKPSD, and that is Brian Kelly post-traumatic stress disorder. I just think that they just can't right now get over the hump and win that big game. And, they certainly had opportunities on Saturday, but I give Ohio State has been there. They've done that, Mike. They know how to win that game.
Yeah.
And they made the plays at the end, and they won the game.
Yeah, they weren't going to be intimidated by that environment. They've played in a lot of bigger stadiums in front of a lot of people and rabid fans and in large stages. And that was a huge test for Kyle McCord, that last series especially. And I think he did really well.
Last series, he was fantastic.
Yeah. It was great to see him kind of keep it together and do that. But Notre Dame was just a couple plays away from winning that game. And I said it last week. I think we all agreed, even Chris Fink, when we had him on the phone, it was going to be it's a 50-50 game.
Yeah.
They could play that game 10 times, and you're going to get 10 different results, each team winning 5. And to me, they looked really even. Notre Dame had a slight edge in the statistical battle, if you want to call it that. But, it was, if you had told me before the game Kyle McCord would throw 0 touchdown passes and Ohio State would still win, I'd say you're crazy. But they did, and it was a classic. It was an instant classic.
It's a classic for Ohio State fans. I don't know how classic it is for Notre Dame fans.
Well, if you don't care about one team or the other and you're just sitting there watching it, you had to enjoy that as well, if you didn't care who won. But, I hear you. Hopefully they can bounce back today and take care of business against Duke. I think they've got game day again down there.
They do.
And
it's going to be another night game, which is torture for us fans to have to wait.
And you think Notre Dame can go 2 different directions there. They can kind of crawl up and still not be over that Ohio State loss the way they did, especially, or they can come out, breathing fire.
Yeah.
And hopefully they come out breathing fire. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you now want Ohio State to go ahead and win out. And if Notre Dame can win out, you might get a rematch.
Yeah, I agree. And a few other notes. Notre Dame's kicker is 3 for 7. You can't have that. Missed a field
So
goal
frustrating.
in the first half, and he's a good kicker, very powerful leg. Just something mental on those intermediate kicks.
And
He
that
seems to be
that
having
really
fun.
hurt him. Obviously, late they
Yeah,
needed those 3 points.
yeah. And this is the obvious one. It's the one that everybody's been talking about all week long. But the last two plays of the game, Notre Dame had 10 men on the field, and I love Marcus Freeman. I really do. I think he's the right man for the job. I think he's already turned the program around as far as talent level and things like that. But Mike, that is just inexcusable. I don't know. I've never coached football, so I don't know what the protocols are in situations like that. Who is supposed to catch something like that? I think Freeman is probably falling on the sword for
100%
for
correct.
someone who's in charge of that. But it does. The buck stops with the head coach.
It does, but I think it's a combination of someone on the coaching staff and someone out on the field. You've got someone out on the field. Usually, it's a middle linebacker who, for lack of a better way to describe it, calls the signals for the defense, and should if it's not the linebacker, somebody in the secondary is usually responsible for making sure they've got 11 guys out on the field because they can stand back there and see everybody.
Yeah.
And you would think after the first one they would have caught it. I know they couldn't call a timeout, but they could have at least jumped offside
Yeah.
and forced the clock to stop that way.
Yeah, he did address that a little bit.
But he ultimately is responsible, and it is hard to believe, and especially that last play when you look at it on the right side of the Notre Dame defense, there was no down lineman. There were two guys. I think one was a linebacker and one was a DB in 2-point stance, and that's exactly where Ohio State ran the ball.
Oh yeah,
And barely got it in, but that's something that those guys aren't going to live down anytime soon. But what you have to hope for is that everybody learns from it and it never happens again.
yeah. And Notre Dame, of course, did. DJ Brown dropped an interception too, on that last drive that certainly would have changed the game. And there's also a little bit of discussion on the Notre Dame held Ohio State. Ohio State punted, and Notre Dame had a chance to close the game out by getting a couple first downs.
That's the possession that I shake my head at, and they helped Ohio State, and I don't know what they were thinking there. But
Well, they ran a few pass plays.
I pounded that number 7 about 3
Yes.
times.
Yes.
But that helped. I mean, that was huge.
Well, on the screen pass, it was incomplete. The Ohio State, I can't remember who made the play on Ohio State.
JT
but
Lulu.
if you look at that play, he made a great play. But if you look at that play, if Notre Dame completes that screen pass, I think Jeremiah Love is gone for about 30 yards.
Oh, they were coming. It was a good call in terms of the situation right then and there as far as calling a pass goes. So they were trying to take advantage of Ohio State being aggressive, rushing the passer. But that kid is a 5-star kid and one of the highest ranked prospects that Ohio State's ever recruited out of Washington.
Fantastic.
And he made a play there. Didn't do a whole lot in the game until the end. I mean, just in terms of standing out and statistically, but made a play there at the end that was that had a lot to do with them getting a chance to win.
So, as you mentioned, Notre Dame heads to Duke tonight. It is another night game, 7:30, I believe. And also, as you mentioned, it is another game day. And, it makes me laugh because every year everybody comments on how Notre Dame's irrelevant and, they're overrated and things like that. But, boy, everybody seems to always be interested in their games.
Oh, you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier about Ohio State, you either watch them and root for them to win or you watch them and root for them to lose. And I think there's a ton of that with Notre Dame as well.
Yeah. So what's next for Ohio State, Mike? I know they're off today. Probably a much-needed rest for them, I'm sure.
This is great. Saw C.J. Hicks at the game last night.
Yeah.
Ohio State Buckeye. They're off this weekend. Coaches are scattered out around the country recruiting, going to games and things of that nature. Much-needed time to rest. Really good timing in terms of this bye as they head into the Big Ten schedule. But they play Maryland next week, and hopefully they can shake off the 2-week rust a little bit there and get started early against the Terrapins. But I don't think, everybody Ohio State gets everybody's best game every week, and so you have to be ready for that. And hopefully they can stay clean until the Penn State game. Just got to take it one game at a time. I think it's a cliche, but for Ohio State, I think they just need to take it one game at a time and continue to improve. I think there's been improvements since week one in that team, and I think if they can continue to incrementally improve where needed, leading up to Penn State, leading up to Michigan, they got a chance. But, they're not, I would not characterize them as a playoff worthy team just yet, but they've got the opportunity in front of them to prove that they are, and going to be rooting for the best for sure.
Well, yeah, they absolutely do. But you're right. Just keep winning.
Doesn't matter how.
Look at what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Notre Dame now has no margin of error.
Correct.
They have a very difficult schedule. They have to play Duke, and then I believe they go to Louisville, and then they take on USC.
Ooh.
And so there's no rest for the weary, certainly for them. It does get a little bit easier after that, but just some huge ball games coming up for Notre Dame. And I agree with you, Mike. I think if Notre Dame were to win out, and that's a tall task, I think they could get back into the playoff and possibly get another chance.
Yeah, they have to run the table. If they run the table, for sure, especially if Ohio State has a great season. That is not a bad, quote-unquote, bad loss. It was only a 3.5-point margin in terms of the spread. They were at home, but still, they end up losing to the Big Ten champion, and they're sitting out there with one loss, and that's the only loss. Obviously, I think they have to be in the conversation. And so I don't think they've – it's a tough challenge for them to get to where they want to go, but I think they can do it. But they have to have things, they're going to need some help. And, Ohio State having a great season, maybe running the table would go a long way in helping them get there.
Well, and I think they can do that. I think your quarterback, Kyle McCord, probably grew up a lot in that ball game. He wasn't perfect, and I think when Notre Dame – when they very rarely got pressure on him, they made him make some bad throws. But if Ohio State keeps him upright and protects him, he's dangerous.
Totally agree. And they've got tremendous wide receivers. I think Ibuka and Marvin Harrison together are the two best wide receivers on any team in the country as a tandem.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. did get a little banged up in that game. Yeah. Have you heard anything?
No, but he came back in and
good week
he
off
played.
For him.
He's got 2 weeks to get healthy, and I think he'll be fine when he comes back. I've not heard anything whatsoever in terms of that injury being serious at all.
And a little local flavor for our local listeners. Mike and I, of course, cover Alter football. We broadcast the games for them. The Knights won last night over McNicholas 28-7. We went into that ball game not really knowing what to think. We expected McNicholas to be a tough opponent, and honestly, don't be misled by the score, 28-7. But for 3 quarters of that game, that was a tight ball game, Mike.
Yeah, it was a great high school football game, much like that Notre Dame game. Really low scoring at halftime and in the first half, and teams went in and made adjustments, but. McNick came out and scored early in the second half there, but then Ohio State dominated, scoring 3 unanswered Alter dominated, scoring 3 straight unanswered touchdowns. And while the score might look like it was lopsided, it was not. But just a really good second half by Alter, both offensively and defensively, to get a big win and set up their game next week with Hamilton-Baden.
Yeah, I thought the defense was fantastic last night. Absolutely. Shut down.
Yeah, and they were able to put pressure on the quarterback who had thrown for almost 1,000 yards, and great coverage in the secondary by the DBs, who were all really pretty fast and athletic, and they made it hard on McNick to run it. They're not a great running team to begin with. It was a great defensive effort by Alter, and really why they won the game.
And the win moves the Knights out to 2-0 in the GCL, 5-2 on the season. And Hamilton-Baden, who has really been kind of the premier team in the Greater Catholic League, Mike, the last few years. They're, of course, 2-0 also in the GCL. They won last night, and it sets up the big matchup next week.
It does. You kind of look at scores to try to compare results to see what to see what you might expect at that game next week. Alter owes Baden in a really big way, and that motivation, the inspiration, a lot of it's going to be in Alder's favor this week as they prepare to get ready for that game Friday night. And if they can come out and execute, I think they got a chance.
How do you think they match up with them, Mike? I know Baden has been just loaded the last 3 or 4 years.
They're loaded. They're deep. They're really good, both sides of the ball. They're big. They've got some athletic kids. If I had sit here today and handicap that game, I'd make Baden a favorite, but if you don't turn it over and you get some big third down stops, and talking, of course, about Alder, you got a chance on the road to win that game. And, man, that would be a big win and a really fun bus ride home for those boys if they're able to pull that off down at Fairfield next week.
Yeah, that would be a huge win. And, historically, the Baden name football wise lately they've been up there, but if you look at that game, you might not consider that like one of those all-time program wins, but I think it would be right now, Mike.
I think given the conditions and the situation, the fact that Baden's won the league 3 years in a row and beaten Alder 3 out of the 4 years we played them, or 3 out of 4 years, I think we haven't beaten them since the playoffs in 2020. Yeah. I think given all of that, this would be a top-notch, potentially top 10 kind of win for the Knights, and certainly put them in the driver's seat, obviously, to win the GCL and get back those bragging rights.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great ball game. Mike and I will be covering that one on Gamecast Sports. So certainly join us for that one if you get a chance. Mike, I was going over the numbers. Of our picks the last couple of weeks, and just to give an update on our picks and where we stand as far as our picks. As far as pro goes, you're 4-3 right now, and I'm 4-3. And believe it or not, in college, you're 3-3 and I'm 3-3.
Well, we're not going to be.
We're equally as bad.
Jimmy the Greek Snyder anytime soon, but. I'll take 500, and especially I'll take one over 500. At least allows me to break even.
Well, the Bengals finally got a win last Monday night. It appears that Burrow at least is getting a little bit better in terms of the injury, the calf injury. He looked a lot better in that game. Still not his normal self, but. When I first started watching that game, it did not look good. I thought that the Bengals were going to be in trouble, but somehow they came away with the
victory. Yeah, I think clearly he was not himself the whole game, and he as much as admitted that at the end in his presser after the game. But they did enough to win, dinking and dunking the ball all over the field, getting their playmakers out in space and allowing them to make plays, I think was clearly the game plan. And he can throw those passes, and he got rid of it quickly and avoided getting hit and having to run too much. And hopefully that means his calf has a little bit more time to heal again. And every week he's just a little bit better.
And of course, your Browns got a bounce back win over the Titans last week. They look pretty good. Myles Garrett is just a beast.
He is something. Well, the defense is ridiculous right now. They're ridiculous. They're first, I think, in every defensive category in the NFL that they measure from a team perspective. Can they keep it up tomorrow? We'll see. But man, they're healthy. They're staying healthy. They're really, really good. Myles Garrett. They added Zadarius Smith, another edge rusher in the offseason who's made a big difference. And then they have that experience in terms of defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who's just one of the top 2 or 3 defensive guys in the league right now, in or out of the league. And they've really they've been fantastic. They are Super Bowl championship caliber right now. If they can stay healthy and keep playing the way they're going to be right up there at the top in terms of all-time Cleveland Brown defenses.
I can't argue with that at all. They look very good on that side of the ball. And, opening week, certainly, they just absolutely shut the Bengals down. But The Ravens will be at the Browns, and that's a pick 'em, Mike. Just a straight out even game there.
Yeah, probably is. I think the betting line favors the Browns ever so slightly. The Ravens have a relatively long list of guys that are out for injuries. The Browns do not. And it feels like the league has kind of like started to solve the Lamar Jackson question.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. I think one thing that Browns and Bengals fans have in common is our disdain for both the Ravens and the Steelers. So hopefully, I know I'll be rooting for the Bengals tomorrow, and hopefully the Bengals fans will be rooting for the Browns.
Yeah, that's a huge conference game right there between the Ravens and Browns. Certainly one that we'll be keeping our eye on, and maybe you and I will. That'll be part of our picks a little bit later. You also have the Dolphins at the Bills, and I think that is just an awesome game, and certainly one that will have possibly playoff ramifications later on in the season.
Just when a team is getting all the love from the national media in terms of the Dolphins, they usually tend to have a tendency
Yeah.
to fall on their face a little bit. Case in point, Dallas last weekend losing to the Cardinals. I fully expect the Dolphins to come out and play crappy and lose to Buffalo because they've just been getting, all of this, chatter and love from the media and fans talking about their big win last week and how great their offense is. And I just almost fully expect Buffalo to come out and win that one, even if it's a close one tomorrow, because that's usually how it works.
And then you also have the Patriots at the Cowboys, and these are just notable games that we kind of pick out from each week.
Yeah.
But Patriots at Cowboys. Patriots right now are 7.5-point underdogs. It'll be interesting.
It's a lot of points.
Who are the Patriots?
That's a lot of points. I would be hard pressed to give up that many points. But it's a good question. Who's Mac Jones? I mean, I don't think they really have an identity that way. And of course, the Cowboys coming off that awful loss against the Cardinals. I think they're going to be pretty motivated. But I think that could be a very competitive game. And if I were a betting man, and I am, I would probably take those points in the Patriots.
And then finally, I kind of added this one. Cardinals are at the 49ers. And, when you look at that game, certainly you'd say, gosh, the 49ers are well favored in that game. But I'm interested in that one, but because I also have the same question. Who are the Cardinals? After you play Dallas so well last week, who are they?
I think they're going to show their true colors this week.
Well, it could be.
Against San Francisco and come bouncing back to earth. But Josh Dobbs, the former Browns quarterback, led them last week, and he'll be out there again this week. The Cardinals, that is. And I don't know if the 49ers will cover, but I'd be really surprised if. I mean, just think about it. The Cardinals upsetting Dallas and San Francisco in back-to-back weeks. That would be the story of the season this year so far if that actually happens, and I'm not sure it will.
No, I'm not either. I would probably pick the 49ers to certainly win that game, but the Cardinals have 14 points. They're plus 14.
Yeah, take the points.
So
that's a big number.
I think the 49ers could certainly blow them out, but that one's kind of intriguing because, as I said again, who are the Cardinals? Because they looked really good against Dallas last week.
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right, Mike, do we have Jeff Gilbert on the line? We're going to go ahead and bring in Jeff Gilbert. Jeff, again, writes for Press Pros and also covers local sports in the Dayton area for the Dayton Daily News. And Jeff was at the Ohio State Notre Dame game last weekend. We certainly would like to get Jeff's reaction to that ball game. Jeff, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Jeff, how are you?
I'm driving. I'm good. I'm driving down I-71 in Cincinnati. So I have to pause for a second, it's because I'm trying to get sure I get off at the right exit here. So.
Okay.
So,
you're busy, man.
Just
busy
hang with me. Yeah, I got stuff going on.
Yeah, but Ohio State, high school, obviously, in Ohio State last Saturday, you had, I think, it was a Wayne and Northmont last night.
Yeah, I was Northmont had a big comeback second half. That was a weird game. It was like 3 hours. And there was 230-some yards of penalties. And somebody got ejected late, and they some weird calls. Half the night was the officials huddled up felt like talking to each other or talking to a coach. It was just a weird game.
A little bit of a rivalry there, though, so you kind of would expect that.
It is. When an 0-3 team in the GWAC beats a 3-0 team in the GWAC, so that's the GWAC.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Northmont's about 4 plays away from being 4-0 in the GWAC.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, so they're D2, man. They're gonna be a lot. Nobody wants to play. Nobody's gonna want to see them on their in the playoffs.
No.
They're gonna have a shot to go pretty far.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but what was the final of that ball game?
26-24.
26.
20. Yeah, it was 17-7 Wayne at the half, and Wayne returned the second half kickoff for a touchdown. Their 5th kickoff return for a touchdown this week.
Wow.
To start the second half.
Kick it out of bounds. Kick it out of bounds.
Well, they did twice. Twice they kicked it out of bounds, and Wayne made them re-kick it.
So, interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
They made him re-kick it, and the first time they made him re-kick it, the kid ran it back all the way.
That's interesting. So let me, hey Jeff, let me ask you, what if he kicks it out of bounds again?
I don't know. I don't know. You just I think you just move them farther back and kick it again. The thing is that they've got a freshman who was like the state sprint champion in the 8th grade in the middle school state meet last year. He was the fastest kid in the state meet. He's a freshman. He's run 3 back for touchdowns this year.
That's amazing.
And then the other kid, Jameer Averett Brown, and then the other kid, his name's escaping me right now. Oh, Josiah Williams West. He's the one that ran the one back to beat Springfield. Because everybody's kicking away from the freshman. Nobody wants to kick near the freshman, so they're kicking toward the other guy. Well, he's run 2 back now in about 3 or 4 tries all season. And so then one time, Northmont kicked, and the guy was able to keep it low and split him, and it rolled, and it got to the end zone on a couple bounces. And then, they just nobody wants to, pick your poison. You got 2 guys back there who can take it to the house. So it's just a weird, it's an unusual thing. Just a very unusual thing. So Wayne's really talented. They're just, they've given up a decent amount of points this year for having a good record. So they're not. Defensively is a problem for them, and then can be. And then on offense, they couldn't move the ball in the second half. Northmont played really good defense. So.
And Jeff, Mike and I, of course, this. We cover Alter. They won last night. So did Baden. That sets up a huge matchup between the Alter Knights and the Baden Rams. Will we see you by any chance at that game next week?
Is that next week? You might.
Okay.
You might. I haven't even looked to see what's going on. I know Wayne and Fairmont. Wayne and Fairmont play.
That's a good one too.
So I don't know what we'll do, but
they usually have somebody down there, and they publish the story in both the Hamilton News Journal and the Dayton Daily News.
Where is the game?
Fairfield.
It's down there. Well, we got a guy that helps us down that way some, so I assume that might be who does it.
Okay.
Well, I doubt I'll go down there.
Okay.
I'd rather not go all the way to Hamilton. Where do they play that game? What school?
It's at Fairfield High School there this year. It's the first time. That's the first time I've, in 20 years I've ever been to Fairfield's high school football stadium. But it's at Fairfield. Baden obviously does not have their own field. They're in the process of building one, I believe, somewhere near the school. But
I went there 3 or 4 years ago for I don't know, GWAC. I don't know, it was Fairfield or Centerville played down there in the season, and I went down for that game. So I've been there once.
Okay.
So
how's the press box?
Hey Jeff, we can really hear your radio in the background.
Yeah. Oh, it's my kid. I'm driving a van for college.
Oh, okay.
There. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that's better.
All right, I put my other earbud in. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
We're about ready. We're almost to our destination here, so it'll be better in a couple minutes. But,
no, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Jeff, it's a good thing that we had a week in between to call because I was pretty inconsolable for about 3 or 4 days after that game last Saturday. But I know you were up there. You and I texted back and forth a little bit. I know you said it was a very exciting game, great atmosphere. For me, unfortunately, Notre Dame didn't come away with the victory. But give us your impressions on, not just the game, but the overall atmosphere and your experience up there at Notre Dame.
Well, press box experience isn't quite the same as being in the crowd, being in the stands. It's not that same vibe, but it was a cool atmosphere. It was night. It was all this green and with red all through it. So it sounded like a Christmas party. But they were into it. Place was bonkers at the right, when you expected it to be, and so it was intense. I was up there the whole time. I saw the final touchdown in the press box, and then I got down to the field to get to the interview area. And by the time I get to the edge of the field is when they announced that the touchdown was good. So that was
that was a foregone conclusion there.
It was a foregone conclusion by then, but the Ohio State fans were super loud after that. They did all the things they did. This thing was weird. Hang on, guys.
Yeah, at least, Mike, from I'm just viewing it on the TV, it was a crazy atmosphere.
I'm sure the Ohio State fans hung around after the game, so by the time maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes after the game was over, it probably was mostly Ohio State fans that were still left in there celebrating with, but it was, there was some red, but not as much as, we talked about this last
Georgia
week.
A couple years
as
ago.
much as Georgia a couple of years ago.
Well, Mike, in 2005, I was at the quote unquote Bush push game.
Yes.
And it was similar, so similar.
Very similar.
The feeling, and actually, Leinart actually scored in the same end zone that Ohio State scored in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities, unfortunately. And I remember walking out of that game, and it was the quietest exit I've ever had from a football stadium.
Yeah, pretty quiet.
Yeah, well, when he scored, it got that way the other night. When Trainum scored, it was just situation. The stadium itself is a cool place. I always refer to Ohio Stadium as a I don't know the word I use. I say it's an edifice, like an edifice, if that's the right word. And Notre Dame Stadium's that way too. It's just a really cool place to see when you're walking up to it, and it's just a different kind of place, different kind of building. And I like the way you go through the stadium, the concourse and stuff. They've got all kinds of signage celebrating their history. I went up high, walked up the ramps, found a spot where I could get a picture of touchdown Jesus. I got a picture of that from up above somewhere, and just all those different sites and just being in the fans and and they're cheering and the students are running up and down the ramp just cheering, doing cheers before the game and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it was fun from that standpoint. And then the game lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
That doesn't always happen. I would say that's one of the. Somebody asked me, "This is the best game you ever been to?" It's one of the two best college football games I've ever been to. So
that's saying a lot.
I was at the, and I haven't been to a lot. I mean, I haven't been to tons of college football games, but the other one, best one I was at before and covered years ago when I was working in Virginia was the Florida State at Virginia on a Thursday night, and it was Florida State's first ACC loss.
Ooh.
I remember that game.
Ooh.
Yeah, Warwick Dunn got stopped at like the 1 or 2 yard line on the last play of the game.
I remember that.
The Barber twins were playing for Virginia.
Yep.
Bobby Bowden was still coaching. George Welsh was coaching. Mike Groh was his quarterback. So that was Virginia has an open air press box. At least they used to. So you're like in the crowd at that game. So that was a really incredible night. So.
Well,
I've been to a game there in that place, and it's just a
Scott
tremendous set. Yes, the whole
Yeah.
campus, the
Yeah.
stadium. It's a different environment, just in terms of how quote unquote preppy it is, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful, man. I saw
Yeah.
them play North Carolina there back in the late '80s, and they Trone Means, I think, was at North Carolina at the time, and it was great. I mean, it was really good.
Uh-huh.
Well, Jeff, the Ohio State victory certainly puts them in good position for the remainder of the season and to make their playoff run, if you will. The
Yeah.
loss to Notre Dame, I think, puts them a little bit behind the eight ball. They're going to have to win out to make it back to the playoffs. So, do you see that as a possibility for Notre Dame? They got some really tough games to come up. They certainly can't lose again. But if they
No.
were to win out, do you see an avenue for them possibly getting back into that top four?
Yeah. I mean, there's an avenue. If you get to 11-1, you're gonna, you lost on the last play to Ohio State. So if Ohio State makes it, that loss doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
In fact, it might help your case, really. I mean,
It might help your case.
right?
Yeah.
And then you're also going to have a victory over USC
Yeah.
in your pocket. This play, I can't, guys. So yeah, that's going to put a big feather in their cap. So at any rate, it's going to give them a great shot. I think if they go and beat, other thing, you got to get some help, right? Certain things have to happen.
Well, they certainly have another big game tonight against Duke. I know you're busy, Jeff, traveling. Just want to get your quick reaction on the game tonight, if you would.
Which game is that?
The Notre Dame Duke game.
Oh, well, you love Duke, man. Duke's got a shot.
They do.
Duke's got a shot.
I have Notre Dame on upset alert.
You had the finger on the Duke pulse right away. So, hey. Anyway, I'm going to have to go because my GPS is not getting me to where I'm trying to go.
Okay,
here.
no problem. We appreciate it.
That's
It's
fine,
Xavier
Jeff.
University, so I'm trying to figure out where I'm going.
Yeah,
so.
that's campus is not fun to navigate.
No, I am trying to navigate, and I don't know where
All right.
I'm going.
I appreciate you joining us, Jeff. Thanks for
All right.
jumping on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you later.
Been down there to Xavier campuses, and it is not easy to navigate if you don't know where you're going.
Yep, that was Jeff Gilbert. He writes for the Dayton Daily News and for PressPros.com that covers Ohio State. So thank you again to Jeff. Always good to get his reaction. And he was up at that game, Mike. And nothing anyone says makes me feel better about that game.
I was just thinking about this. I mean, what's a worse way to lose a game as a fan than that? Field goals happen all the time, but to score a touchdown by the full length of a football in the last second when you needed a touchdown. The only loss I can think of that might have been worse is that year Auburn ran back a missed field goal for a 108 yards for a touchdown. That was that happened. That was a slow burn there at the end, the last 10 or 11 seconds it took for that kid to return the ball all the way and give Auburn that win. But just in terms of tougher ways to lose an enormous game like that, I can't think of another. I mean, I guess an interception return, pick six for a touchdown at the horn, or I mean, you're talking about losing on the last play of the game, so that's where you got to start. And that's a tough way, and I feel your pain because we've all been there and done that, and. Like you said, and I said last week, I predicted that Ohio State would win on the last play of the game. I said that.
Yeah.
Although I was thinking field goal, but they scored the last play of the game and made the plays that, like you said at the end, that they needed to make to win. They weren't necessarily the overwhelmingly better team, but it's like Alder made next Friday. You can lose the statistical battle, but you can win the game, and that's what happened Saturday night for Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not into moral victories. I am not. But as we get a little further away from that game, I can look at it a little bit more objectively. And what I see is Marcus Freeman has raised the talent at Notre Dame in a very short period of time. I think if people can be a little patient, he's gonna get them back to the elite level. I really do believe that, and I think they proved it. I don't know who knows what kind of level this Ohio State team is, if they're at the level of some of the great Ohio State teams, but they're loaded. They're loaded with talent, and Notre Dame took them all the way down to the wire.
Yeah,
So I'm
absolutely.
happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Notre Dame fans have to be Ohio State fans now, and that's the way it works. And the shoe was on the other foot. Buckeye fans would be rooting for the Irish to win out had Ohio State lost. So, unfortunately, I don't think they're going to play anytime soon. I've seen
Yeah.
Ohio State's schedule through 2028.
I wish they would.
They're playing Texas and Alabama, and a couple other big programs. Ohio State is with their one big non-conference game, but Notre Dame's not on the schedule, and it might be a while. I may never see them play again.
They might play this year, Mike.
Well, thank you. You're right. That could happen, and that's true. They could meet in a and because especially with the expansion of the playoffs, I would think an Ohio State Notre Dame matchup on campus in the first round any year of the new playoff system would be attractive for the NCAA and
For everyone,
the advertisers and everybody else. And so, yeah, that could definitely happen for sure.
And Mike, it's that time of the show where we'll do our picks, and we also want to do our helmet stickers from last week's college football. I'm going to go with Bo Nix versus Colorado. They won 42-6. Nix was 28 of 33 for 276 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and he had an 84.8 completion percentage. I watched that game, and he was just absolutely on fire, and I was really impressed with that was a game that I think Oregon was certainly expected to win, but there's some pressure there. Deion Sanders certainly has brought that Colorado program back. The hype was there, but I thought Bo Nix performed very well at home.
Yeah, I think that's the second time we've given him a helmet sticker this week, so he must be a leader in the Heisman Trophy race if we're picking him. I'm going to go with Kyle McCord. He didn't have a great overall game statistically, but he was really good when it mattered. Overall, he was 21 for 37, 240 yards, no touchdowns, but 0 interceptions. And, of course, that kid's taken a lot of heat the first 3 weeks of the season. I don't know if I'm going to say criticism, but certainly a lot of questioning. And, boy, he came out there on the field at the end and got a little bit of help from Notre Dame with a penalty, but he led them down the field, was not rattled, got them all the way to the goal line, and kept them composed. And Kyle McCord, I mean, he passed the litmus test for me last Saturday.
He sure did. I can't disagree with that one at all. He looked good. I mean, he did a great job, and kudos to him. Went into a hostile environment, held his own.
Yeah,
I think for most of the game, and then made the plays at the end.
I mean, if he does what he can to make sure the Ohio State doesn't lose. In other words, if he plays, well enough for them to win, and then has a possession like he did there at the end, that's a couple helmet stickers from me for
and
sure.
I owe you lunch or dinner, don't I, from that game? Something like that.
My favorite muffin breakfast.
Okay, breakfast. That's right. All right, folks, we're going to go to our picks before we wrap up the show. We're going to pick the Bengals, Titans, Ravens, Browns, Dolphins, Bills, Patriots, Cowboys, Cardinals, 49ers. Mike, I'll go first on the first one. I'm going to go with the Bengals. The Bengals are a pick'em against the Titans, and I'm going to go with them.
I think Tennessee probably gets the win there. I think they're hurting a little bit from that defeat they took at the hands of the Browns on Sunday. I think Joe Burrow is just limited enough still that the Titans can expose him. The Bengals did not play great last week against the Rams. In fact, probably played just well enough to win, and I think that might come back to haunt him. I'm waiting for Burrow to show, he's fully healthy before I'm that confident in Cincinnati, but I think the Titans spring the small upset in that game.
Then we have the Ravens at the Browns, Mike. That's also a pick 'em, which is
Yeah.
kind of surprising. I'm going to go with the Browns on that one. I just think the Browns are really playing well on defense.
They
And
are.
I think it'll be a low scoring game, but I think the Browns are going to come away with
Yeah,
it.
that defense is hard to argue with, but I'm a pessimistic Browns fan, and I expect them to lose every weekend right now. So until I'm a little bit more confident, they need to beat Baltimore for me to jump fully on board, and so I'm taking the Ravens in that one.
No, I'm shocked with that
I'm
one.
hoping for the
Wow.
I'm hoping I jinx Baltimore, right? Because the teams
Okay.
I pick usually lose, so that's my strategy.
This one is really intriguing. The Dolphins at the Bills, also a pick 'em. I agree with what you kind of said early on in the show. I think the Dolphins are prone to kind of step on their tails a little bit. So I'm going to go with the Bills in that one because I think the Bills are still a very good team. They've started off kind of slow.
That's in Buffalo, right?
It is in Buffalo.
that's a
It's a
big
pick 'em.
deal.
I'm going to go with the Bills on that.
Yeah,
one.
me too. I think, like I said earlier, once a team gets lofty in the NFL and up there and everybody's talking about them, they come crashing back down to earth shortly thereafter. And I think, the Dolphins going into Buffalo, that's going to be, it's really hard to pick them. I like Buffalo at home in that game to win a close game. Maybe not cover, but to win.
Okay. The next game is the Patriots at the Cowboys. The Patriots are plus 7.5. I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one, Mike. I know it's a lot of points, but I think the Cowboys are ticked off last week after losing to the
Yeah,
Cardinals
I mean,
and not playing well.
We're just picking to win. I think it's the Cowboys, but if we're picking against the spread, I would take the Patriots and the points in that one. I feel like Bill Belichick will get them ready, but it is a little bit scary of a game just because Dallas coming off that big upset loss to the Cardinals. They're going to be a little bit fired up, but I like the Patriots and 7.5 points. That's too many points to give up. I'm dumping on the Patriots and the points bandwagon.
All right, and I kind of picked this one just because I'm interested to see who are the Cardinals after defeating the Cowboys last weekend in impressive fashion. But the Cardinals are at the 49ers. The Cardinals are getting 14. I'm still going to go with the 49ers.
Man, yeah, 49ers to win, but the Cardinals to cover. That's
Okay.
just too many points to given an NFL team. I think there's a good chance the Cardinals get a little bit of a backdoor cover there with a touchdown late to pull within the point spread, and I think the Cardinals cover, but the Niners win. I think they'll probably do it in a pretty comfortable fashion.
All right, and then on to the college games. I got 4 of them for us, Mike. First one is USC at Colorado. That's a noon game on Fox. USC is minus 23.
Yeah, the over-under in that game is 72.5.
That's a lot of scoring.
Neither team can stop the other, but I think USC is just going to pound these guys into oblivion and win easily, and the Trojans all the way in that one.
By more than 23?
Man, 23 is so many, but I'm going to go with yes.
Okay, so Mike goes with USC in that one. I am going to go with USC as well. I don't think this one's going to be even close. I think
No,
that
it's
Colorado is going to be exposed, and I think it's going to be well more
I
than
mean,
23.
Oregon just absolutely manhandled them
Yeah.
last week, and USC is better than Oregon probably. So yeah.
Notre Dame at Duke, Mike, 7:30 game on ABC. Notre Dame is minus 5.5. It's a scary one, but my heart and my hopeful brain tells me that Notre Dame is going to come out ticked off, and they're gonna come out and take this one on Duke. I think they're going to cover that, so I'm going to go with Notre Dame.
I underestimated Duke earlier in the season. We have an Alder alum, a friend of my son, Zach, Pat Doherty, who's the special teams coach down there, a really great kid. I've had him at halftime of one of our games a couple years ago, and I hope that they can at least play well, but I don't think there's any way Notre Dame doesn't come out breathing fire in that game, and I just think they're going to take it to Duke and take all their excuse me, all their frustrations out on Duke down there. Is that game in Charlotte, or where is that game?
It's Durham.
Is it at Durham?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. Their stadium only holds about 40,000 fans.
Yeah, it's not very big, but that's a big deal to come on campus for Notre Dame. But I think Notre Dame wins that game and wins it easily, but probably loses the GPA battle in that one.
Well, I don't know. That'd be close, but you're right. Two very good schools, certainly. Duke is coached by Mike Elko, who was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame a handful of years back. So a lot of interesting storylines there. Certainly, that's a huge game for Duke. They're going to be fired up. We'll see if Notre Dame can handle it. Tough to go play another tough top 20 game after you just played Ohio State. But I think Notre Dame, like you said, is going to come out. They're going to be ready. They're going to be ticked off, and they're going to be breathing some fire. So I'm going to go with ND as well.
Absolutely.
Next one is LSU at number 20, Ole Miss. Number 13, LSU, I should say, at number 20, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is -3. I was kind of surprised.
Lane Kiffin, also known as Joey Freshwater, when he goes out trolling the bars in the local towns that he works in. It's a true story.
Oh, geez.
Absolute true story. But I like LSU just because they're probably going to be more talented and deeper. And, don't put anything past Kiffin, though. I think that almost anything can happen in that game offensively. He has a way of getting his kids really fired up and ready to play in those kinds of games. But Brian Kelly, despite Brian Kelly, I think LSU wins that game and covers as well.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss for all the reasons that you just stated. I think Kiffin is going to have them ready to go. And I don't like Brian Kelly's coaching in big ball games. So
yeah, that's a good point.
I'm going to go with
what time is that game? Do you have the time on that?
Yeah,
game?
that one's at 6 on ESPN.
I'll be watching.
And our final one, Mike, is Florida at Kentucky. Kentucky is -3. I was also surprised in that line, but they are at home, and they're facing number 22, Florida.
At Kroger Field, by the way.
That's right.
And Florida's disappointed me this year. I bet on them earlier in the season and lost, and so I kind of harbor ill feelings towards them for that. And I think they've been up and down at best.
Yeah.
Kentucky's pretty solid. They're at home, and that's going to be a big time atmosphere. UK is going to come ready to play, and I think what's his name? Their head coach. My goodness!
Is it Stoops?
Stoops. Stoops has them fired up. By the way, the Stoops family, all of them from Youngstown, and all played at Youngstown Cardinal Moody.
A lot of coaches from Ohio.
Yeah, and they all played at Youngstown Cardinal Moody. Just a tremendous roots in Ohio, northeastern Ohio. The Stoops brothers. But I think UK gets Florida, and they celebrate tonight down in Lexington.
I'm going to go with the Gator Chop.
Wow, we got a lot of differences.
I'm going to go with Florida on that one. Well, I had a cousin who went to Florida, so
that's good enough.
I got to root for Florida for her. So I'm going to go with Florida.
And Matt Ruffalo's not at UK anymore.
Well, that's right. Absolutely. And Mike is going to go with Kentucky. So there you have it, folks.
Go out and make some bets and lose a lot of money.
That's right. If you want to make money, go the exact opposite of what Mike and I.
Yeah.
Although we're not doing too bad.
No.
We're about 500 so
you
far.
You need to be a little bit better than 500 when you're betting to keep from losing money. But a little bit over 500 is a good place to be. And I'm anticipating going undefeated this game.
Yeah, I think we're a little over 500 in college.
That's good.
But 500 in pros. And,
yeah.
I was going to say it to Jeff Gilbert a little bit earlier. He was talking about being on Notre Dame's campus, and there's nothing like being on college campuses for college football.
Oh, it's a different feel than the NFL. I mean, the NFL feels like the tailgates are just a bunch of people sitting around trying to get drunk before they go to the game. But, on college campuses, it feels more like a party for people of all ages. Love going to Ohio State and just walking around and seeing the tailgates and the RVs and everything that comes with that and the pageantry around it. It's a different environment and one I prefer over the NFL.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to make it to Ohio State before the season's over and, check it out again like I do every year for one time.
Absolutely. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Mike, thanks to you for joining me this morning. Enjoyed it very much.
As
and
always.
thanks you to you folks for watching in. Do us a favor on your way out. Subscribe to the channel and give us a like. We'd appreciate that. That would certainly help us. So, Thanks again for joining us. Enjoy all the sports today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week on Gamecast Radio Sports Talk.
See you, everybody.